Yes, it's now time for another Brit to roll the dice against the formidable Ukrainian. It's Usyk vs Dubois, but with the... bloody hell. Sorry, yes, but with Daniel's respectable record and brutal power. Why are many fans seeing it so one-sided? Well, let's pull back the flaps of this fight and give it a saucy breakdown, double proper style. Let's see why the fans are giving Dubois less than a 10% chance. Alright then, here we go.
Let's get ready to rumble!
So then, amongst the announcements of AJ White and Fury and Ngannou, this fight has been talked about the least. But with everything on the line, including the prospect of that undisputed fight for the winner, it is actually the most important of the three. I mean, it's certainly more important than this, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? To be honest, that fight between them two fucking chunky blokes the other day has the same importance as Fury fucking Ngannou. But that's for another video. So let's discuss recent form with their last 5 fights. Well, Usyk has become known as the Brit Basher, having defeated Bellew Chisora and Joshua twice since 2018. He cleaned up the cruiserweight division, then his heavyweight venture began with Chaz Witherspoon, retiring him in 7 rounds. He then somewhat uncomfortably cruised to a decision win over Chisora, then he performed a double masterclass on Joshua.
All 3 scores go to the winner and new heavyweight champion of the world.
Daniel, on the other hand, has had a more up and down recent run of form. 5 fights ago, he came up against Big Joe for the British title and found his power could not faze the juggernaut, while simultaneously taking serious damage to the eye. He took a knee in the 10th and it was all over.
Oh dear, it's the left eye and he's gone down. He's gone down with a jab right on that damaged left eye, and down he goes. He's had enough, he doesn't want any more. And Joe Joyce, by stoppage, is the new British Commonwealth champion.
But he returned with a bang, sensationally knocking out his next 3 opponents before disaster almost struck in the Lorena fight. His senses were scrambled by a naughty temple punch, and he found the canvas twice more in only the first round. By the way, the round did actually end double early, and the WBA does have a 3 knockdown rule, so Dubois probably should have lost that fight. But fuck all that, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Anyway, fair play. He showed his toughness even with what turned out to be an ACL tear, going on to finish Lorena with a TKO in the 3rd and putting himself firmly in the world title mix. Superb. Now, former opponents do actually tell us even more about this bout. Usyk has found himself boxing at the very highest level for several years now. Granted, the majority of it was in the cruiserweight division, but his transition to the top level of the heavyweight division never once fazed him, and his dismantling of AJ proved exactly this. Whereas in Daniel's case, he has been match made well by Frank throughout his career in terms of progression and looking good, but the matchmaking has been equally bad because he has barely had to prove himself against the top fighters of the division, or even the level below that for that matter. You know, like the gatekeepers of this world, the Chisoras, the Takams, and the Charles Martins. The highest ranked fighter he has fought was Joyce, where he came unstuck. Other than this, it was actually Lorena who has the highest star rating on BoxRec, but it's debatable if even he could be considered a good stepping stone towards world titles. And the fact that this fight was not his finest hour doesn't really bode too well going into the Usyk fight. But he did have that injury, so credit where credit is due, he did show double superb heart to win this fight under the circumstances. So fair play for that big boss. But yes, it's no secret that ultimately Dubois is lacking significant experience at the highest level. And with him now coming up against arguably the highest level heavyweight in the world, it's hard to see what he can bring to the table to trouble Usyk, other than that well-renowned brutal power. So let's talk about that power. Well, yes, our old mate Frankie Warren is absolutely adamant that Dubois is going to upset the apple cart here because of those dynamite fists. I know he's a promoter, but just listen to him. There's no doubt in his mind.
I genuinely think it's his moment.
I generally think that he has the ability, he has all the things that's needed to win this fight.
But you know what's going to happen? Daniel Dubois is going to absolutely screw this up for all of them. He's going to knock him the fuck out, I'm telling you.
So as you can see, he's absolutely certain. I mean, he's also certain that Fury and Ngannou is a fucking game changer.
It's game changing. It's bigger than show stopping. It's going to be a game changer.
I'd like to call big fat hairy bollocks on that one, Frankie boy. But yes, anyway, it's no secret that he does have that naughty equaliser in his artillery. However, in terms of this fight, just an observation, but is his power really any more than, say, Joshua? Is his power leagues and leagues above Chisora? And Usyk dealt with their best comfortably? I'm not so sure. Now, I'm not taking anything away from our old mate Daniel. He is a superb fighter and a double hard hitter. But the point is that even though he is a huge puncher, it probably won't be anything that Usyk hasn't had to deal with before. But on top of this, the Ukrainian is simply a genius of movement and knows better than anyone how to get out of harm's way, which unfortunately diminishes Dubois' so-called puncher's chance. And remember, the sole reason that fans are giving Dubois any chance whatsoever, the sole reason that they're giving him a less than 10% chance, is purely because of that famous puncher's chance.
I give him a 7.5% chance. It's a difficult ask.
It's very difficult to see anything other than an Usyk win. Those are just the facts, aren't they?
It might be one punch might happen, but it's a huge ask.
We all know that Usyk's sweet science is incomparable to Dubois, meaning that many would give him no hope whatsoever about boxing the Ukrainian. We saw Joshua try this first, and he showed it just can't be done. And even though many say that Chisora actually provided the blueprint for beating Usyk by bullying him and imposing size on him, if you actually watch it back, Usyk's footwork and the angles he created were as usual just incredible, allowing him to weather this storm. Don't get me wrong, Del Boy did have some success, but ultimately he was still completely outboxed. I can see Daniel trying the same method for this fight, but I'm predicting it'll pretty much go the same way. But just pull the brakes there, old proper. There are some things in Dubois' favour that can't go unnoticed. Yes, of course he punches harder. Yes, of course youth is on his side, and he has had much more activity of late with 7 fights since Usyk moved to heavyweight in 2019. Oleksander has only managed 4 in this time, fighting a mere once a year. And let's not forget, who knows if the absolute chaos of the Fury saga throughout the first quarter of the year scrambled the Ukrainian's brain a little bit. It fucking scrambled mine, I'll tell you that. Well, okay, if I'm being honest, it doesn't seem to have made an impact because Usyk seems to be his usual Usyk self, but you just never know behind the scenes. However, on the flip side of this, it does have to be said that the lack of activity did not affect his ability in either of the AJ fights, as he still performed a masterclass in both. This is probably due to the fact that he appears to live the life. He never seems to be out of the gym, always training in his own special and spontaneous way, from juggling to sparring 2 heavyweights at the same time. The man is simply somewhat of a phenomenon. Well, you know what I mean, he's fucking good, isn't he? So yes, of course you can't write off old Daniel because of the saucy dynamite fists, and fair play to his big beautiful bollocks for stepping up to the plate. Solid effort. But unfortunately for him, the bookies are singing off the same hymn sheet as many of the pundits and fans. He simply has a real mountain to climb, but in heavyweight boxing, as they say, anything can happen. So we shall see. Either way, bring it on. Good luck to both of the double legends. Lovely jubbly, thanks a lot, well and truly bosh.